Hey, I'm Landon Martin. I'm a quarterback in the class of 2024 from Strasburg High School, and you're listening to Playmakers Corner.
And I'm Austin Velasco, wide receiver in the class of 2024, and you're listening to Playmakers Corner.
What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Playmakers Corner podcast. As you just heard here, we got two great guests here from Strasburg here. Landon, man, you've been on this show. I think this is your third year going on here at this point. And, it's been great. You're going to be a senior this year, so that's definitely exciting. And then Austin, we got to meet you actually last year at the Wiggins game, which was absolutely wild, which we'll talk about. So to both of y'all, thank you for coming on to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate you having us on.
Yeah, it's no problem at all here. So, Landon, you've already answered the intro question, so this is really just for Austin here. But we ask every single guest these two questions just so that, the listeners could get to know you a little bit better. But let's start out with the first one here. What is your favorite sports memory, not as an athlete, but kind of as a sports fan, I would say? This could really be any sport. I know Denver lately has been popping off with the championship, so there's a lot to pick from there.
Yeah, my favorite would probably be the Nuggets finals this year. I think that was just a really fun series to watch.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially because y'all won it. It would have been less fun if y'all didn't win, and it was the first one too. So definitely get that. And then the other question here, what's your favorite sports memory as an athlete? Like I said, could be any sport and from any level. It doesn't just have to be high school either.
My favorite sports memory would probably have to be last year or 2 years ago when we played Lyman in basketball. It was just, the atmosphere was just really fun, and just like being around our teammates and stuff. It was just a great experience to have.
Say less. No, I got you. I mean, some of these basketball matchups do get intense, so I definitely get that. Well, then, that's the intro there. We're just going to go ahead and hop into it, man. Let's just talk football here. So last year, y'all went 10-2 all together. Let's go ahead and start from the beginning here. Going into this season, there were definitely some high expectations and whatnot. How high did you meet those expectations? And, what were some things you learned from last season?
I'll start off by answering this one. I think, first and foremost, the expectation within the team was to come out and we expected nothing short of a state championship. So we came up short in that regard, obviously. But I know that preseason there was definitely some questions about us, considering, that summer we had graduated, guys like Matthias and Wilson Ames, guys who basically were our whole starting offensive line. So there were a lot of questions coming into the season, and one of our goals was kind of answer those questions and prove that we had guys that could step up and fill roles. And I think in that aspect we did a really good job meeting the expectation. But like I said, we wanted the state championship, and that was the goal from day one. So when you don't get there, it's definitely disappointing, but there's still a lot of good to look at from the season. So there were so many good aspects and a lot of learning experiences, but obviously, not the outcome we wanted.
Yeah, no, for sure. Austin, did you want to comment on that as well?
Yeah, just like what Landon said, we had a lot of questions in the preseason because we graduated our whole offensive line, so we were kind of questioning where we would have players to step up in that spot. And yeah, every year we have a goal to make it to the state championship, and it's always kind of disappointing when you don't make it there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And y'all did come up close to a team that would make it to state and played Lyman really close in that state championship game there. So, that kind of just measures where y'all are at. Y'all still are a contender, going into this season, but y'all definitely were last season as well. So let's talk a little bit about this last season here. Started off with a really good win over Holyoke, 37-6 here. And then we, as in myself and Cody, went to this crazy game against Wiggins, arguably the craziest game in the 2022 Colorado high school football season. Well, the craziest game that finished, at least, by the way. And It ended up being a 29-28 double overtime win. I want to talk to y'all about this win here specifically here. I mean, obviously we talked about it after the game and so forth, but what was, I guess, the vibes going into this game? Because right off the bat, this was a very physical football game here. But what were the vibes like to start out? And kind of just explain y'all's mindset and thought process going through this extremely long game that almost ended at midnight here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, leading up that whole week, it was a big matchup because we knew Wiggins was going to be one of the tougher teams in the state, and we knew they had a lot of size and they were very physical, and we knew that a win over them would kind of catapult us into that contender conversation. So we definitely had that one circled on the calendar, and like you said, right from the get-go, it was very physical. We came out and scored first, which was huge for us. Really big for the momentum. And then we scored twice pretty early, actually. And then the rest of the game was it was definitely still physical and there was some action. But for, most of that second half, it was, I don't know. I don't think there was a score and just not that much going on. And then obviously we had the first delay, which kind of threw everything off. And Wiggins had come out and made some adjustments. The funny thing actually is when we went to the locker room for that delay, their entrance to their locker room is kind of right next to where ours is. And so our coaches were standing outside of the locker room kind of talking a little bit. And I think their coaches were doing the same. And it sounded like there might have been a little bit of eavesdropping going on, trying to figure out what, from both sides, kind of what adjustments would be made. And, definitely it was just super competitive. There was some talking going on. We know a lot of those kids and, they know us going way back to middle school and stuff like that. So the energy was crazy. And I don't know, that ended up being one of the more fun games I can remember. I had a blast with that one.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, this was a game where y'all as a duo really emerged and arguably was a breakout game here for both of y'all. Landen, you threw for 12 of 20 for 144 yards and 3 touchdowns. Austin, you caught 7 receptions for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. Austin, why don't you talk about that game a little bit more here? This was a big one for you where y'all really came up big, especially down the line as well.
Yeah, I just feel like once our run game kind of stopped, Landen had to step up and make some plays, throw the ball a little bit, and I feel like all of us receivers really stepped up and contributed towards Landen, and that I feel like our passing game really helped us later down the road in that game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this was a key game to win here. Definitely, moving on in that season when it came to seeding and whatnot. So there you go there. But yeah, so that happened. That was a good win there. Then you played Lyman the next week. It wasn't as bad as it looks here. It was 27-0. It looks like it just kind of got away from y'all. It is what it is. They definitely beat a lot of other teams by worse, especially this squad, which was really big up front. But then y'all took care of business against Bennett on the road, 43-14, Clear Creek, 63-6. I mean, y'all just went on a tear here throughout y'all's league here. Denver Christian, I guess, was the closest league game here. At 56-21, and then you beat Middle Park 56-6, Jefferson 63-14, Platte Canyon, you didn't let them score, and you put 54 on them, so there's that. So a really strong end to that regular season. In the playoffs, you beat Burlington round 1, 41-7. In the second round, y'all played Centauri here, and I think a lot of us on the podcast thought this would be a closer game, as well as some other media members still favored y'all. Or at least I think for the most part we did. And y'all beat them 37-0, which was huge because that was a Centauri team that was picking up some steam at the end. So you kind of just stopped them in their tracks there. And then you played Ray here where y'all unfortunately lost 28-0. So, this will be the last question about this last season, I promise here. But, what was that playoff run like? Just going game by game, what was that like? And obviously it didn't end the way y'all wanted to, but Just speak on the playoffs and what y'all learned from that and what y'all are taking from that going into this next season.
I think for me, that was kind of this whole playoff run in general was just kind of a whole different experience because, my freshman year we went to the state final game and lost to Lyman, but I rode the sideline for that whole run. So being there and experiencing it is one thing, but playing and contributing and trying to lead a team to that goal of a state championship is it's a whole nother ball game. So just experiencing what a playoff atmosphere and what the physicality and the preparation is like for a playoff game was huge for me just because it was something I hadn't experienced before. And I mean, this, but I had gotten hurt my sophomore year, so didn't get to make it to the playoff game for that one. And that week 1 game against Burlington at the very beginning, it was a little bit of a shock. I threw my first interception of the season within the first, 5 minutes of that game. And after that, the nerves kind of settled and you find your spot. But definitely it was just weird kind of getting my feet wet and getting the grip on things. So that week 1 win against Burlington was big just to build some confidence. And I think I saw after that game the team kind of have a mindset switch where we were finally like, all right, yeah, we belong here. We belong on this stage and we can perform at a playoff level. And then that game against Centauri, I just remember coming in ultra confident. I knew that Centauri, we obviously have had a long history with them. We've played them in, I don't know, at least 5 playoff games now, I'd bet. And obviously they were the defending state champs. And they had lost some talent, but we knew that was going to be a tough one and came out ultra confident. I think the team had a really good mindset going into it and came out and took care of business. And then the Ray game, we knew Ray would be tough. We watched them play Wiggins tough twice, and I think they'd split with Wiggins actually, won one and lost one. We saw them play Lyman pretty tough, and so we knew we had some work cut out for us. And it was one of those ones where we came in and I don't think it was the right mindset fully. I think there was a little bit of timidness, which at that point at the state semifinal, you just can't have. And, came up short, which stinks. But I think it was great for us heading into our senior year to at least have, a good amount of playoff experience and see what that was like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And by the way, that Ray game was the only away game of y'all's playoff run. And that's definitely not easy to go in their house and do, especially with that squad. So I definitely get that. And I believe you're right. They did split with the Wiggins here. I want to say lost in the regular season. Well, it had to have been this way. Lost in the regular season. And then in the playoffs, I watched that game. Wiggins was on them by a solid amount. And then Ray just started scoring and forcing a lot of 3-and-outs in a row there to have a great comeback. So, yeah, that's definitely a tough team to beat. And, you need everything when going against that team for sure, especially on the road. Austin, you had a really good performance throughout these playoffs here against Centauri. I believe you had around 90 yards of receiving there. Is there anything you want to add on about this playoff experience here?
Yeah, I just think this whole season for me in general, just coming off my first varsity start, like starting off, was really a cool experience. And then when we got to the playoffs, it was just more of like a mindset switch that, all right, now we got to lock it in. And then, like what Landen said, after week 1 and week 2, we had pretty good confidence, and then we came into that Ray game and we were just a little bit timid. And yeah, you just can't have that when you're in the semifinals.
I definitely got you there. But a lot of learning experiences from last season, which, obviously you didn't go to state, didn't win it, but still a pretty good season. A lot of other teams would kill to have that season. Well, you take all those experiences going into this next one here. And, at the time of recording this, it's actually July 20th here, so y'all's season preview would have dropped by now. And that is episode 279. So if you're listening to this, listeners, go ahead and check that one out here. But, y'all obviously know who you're losing in Zach Marrero, Hayden Turner, Steven, Zach Rushman, Caleb Hart, a bunch of guys, right? But going into this season, you bring back a lot of dudes as well here. Before we talk about this schedule, why don't y'all go ahead and talk about some guys who y'all really feel like will be key going into this next season here?
I'll start off. One guy that I know is going to come in and contribute big is a guy, Paul Smith. He definitely helped split some reps in the defensive backfield at safety and corner last year, and he's definitely contributed in that aspect. But this year, he's definitely stepping into a bigger role, full-time starter on both sides of the ball, and he'll be running the ball a little bit on the offensive side, playing a little bit of receiver, and then playing in the defensive backfield on the other side of the ball. And I expect him to have a really big season, to step into kind of that Zach role a little bit, and be able to carry it for us. And super athletic, very physical, and just smart. And I have a lot of confidence that Paul is going to step in and do some really good things. And then one other guy that I definitely want to talk about is a guy, Julian Valencia. He's been our kicker. He's been the starting kicker since his freshman year. And it's kind of funny. We all talk about how, when we started off as freshmen, he only was a kicker. And I'm going to be complete. I love you, Julian, if you're listening to this, but I would have never thought that guy would have been anything but a kicker. Honestly, he ran goofy. He couldn't catch, but that guy put his head down. He put his head down these past couple of years and worked really, really hard just to become a better athlete and, help contribute in other ways on this team. And coming into senior year, he's put himself in the position to do some really big things on this team too, on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. So those two guys for me are some big ones.
Say less. I love it. Austin, is there anybody else you wanted to shout out here before we talk about this season and the schedule here?
Yeah, there's he's going to be a sophomore this year, Cam Manahan. He plays cornerback and X for us, receiver. This last week at camp, he really showed out, and he showed us what he can do on the defensive side, especially. And I'm excited to see what he can do for us. And he's an incredible athlete, and he can make plays when we need him. And I'm excited to see what he can do this year. And then another one that I have is Ian Ross. He's going to be a junior this year. He plays our right tackle and outside linebacker. And this kid is a phenomenal athlete. He's super aggressive, flies to the ball on defense, very, very strong. This kid can make plays that surprise me, and he'll be a very big contributor to our team this year.
Sweet. Sounds good. As usual, Strasburg, y'all are looking pretty deep there. That's not even including some of the guys who are already pretty established here in DJ Cannon, Al Dickens, Thomas Devlin, just to name a few. So definitely a good squad moving forward here. And, this is y'all's senior year, so it is it's y'all's last opportunity to go ahead and make a run at state here. But looking at this schedule, we're just going to go game by game, talk about some teams here. To start off, y'all play Holyoke. This one is on the road, so kind of a tougher road game here. They bring back their quarterback, obviously. They're in Wyatt Sprague. And then they have a couple of really good skill players between Cash Weber, Bryson Dirks. I think this is a game that Cody went ahead and said could potentially be a lose bowl one. What are y'all thoughts going into that first game, which will be y'all's opener here, not at home, but away?
Definitely. I think, it's obvious that Holyoke's definitely going to have some talent returning. Sprague is a great player and a lot to deal with, a lot to game plan for. So we're definitely going to have to get ready for him. And like you said, they've got some pretty talented skill guys coming back. So definitely, it being the season opener, you want to come out and you want to make a statement. So, I think that I'm very confident in our ability to come out and get a win. It's just kind of, it's kind of depending on um, what we do, what we do right. We have the talent to do it, but we're gonna have to do the right things if we want to pull out a win in that one for sure. So definitely just like I said, just know that we have to come out and get to work.
Yeah, no, for sure. Austin, anything you wanted to add on there?
Yeah, we got to have I feel like the same confidence that we had coming in last year. I mean, they're bringing back a couple decent athletes, and I feel like the majority of what happens that week is what we do the week prior in practice. All the game planning that we do, we got to really, really focus up and lock in for the first game of the season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, now that I'm looking at the schedule here, y'all's first 3 games are all away here. So you won't actually play at home until September 22nd, which is a while. And it's not like these 3 teams are bad either. You do play Wiggins next. We don't have to talk about them too much here, but they are losing a ton of players. It's no disrespect, obviously, but could probably mark that up as a win, as y'all definitely have a lot more continuity going on going into this next season. But that's away too, so we'll just have to see what happens there. Then y'all play Lyman away right after that to kind of end this 3-game road trip here. Obviously Lyman, they're the defending state champions. I mean, we know what they are. Right, going into that game, obviously the goal is to win here. But, can y'all go ahead and talk about this game just a little bit here? I guess mindset, things that, well, don't give away your game plan, but, things that y'all are looking to do here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that Lyman game every year is probably the first one that we'll circle on the calendar. It's just a lot of familiarity. I could probably name you Lyman's starting roster off the top of my head right now. I just, and I'm sure they could do the same. I've been playing most of those guys twice a year since 7th grade. So it's always a fun game just because, I've had conversations with the dudes I'm lining up against, and, there's just so much familiarity. So obviously, they've had our number for the past couple of years. I think the last time we even beat Lyman was, I believe, 2019, and that was a regular season game. And the last time we beat them in the playoffs was even before that. So it's definitely one you focus on, because we want to kind of change the narrative and flip the script around that game, and kind of, like I said, just change things up. And right now they're the favorite. They're defending champs, and they're returning a lot of talent with Rockwell and Cale Bennett and Logan Botcher and guys like that. So that's definitely one we've got circled, and we're no doubt we're going to have to come very prepared if we want a chance in that one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, honestly, this is them and Holyoke are probably the 2 teams y'all could potentially play again in the playoffs. So there would definitely be a lot to learn there. Austin, is there anything more you wanted to add on about Lyman here?
I just think that our mindset coming into that game has to be, like, your mindset has to be switched every game, but this one especially just needs to be like blood in the water. You got to just get after them, and we got to do a lot of things right, because they're returning a lot of talent, but you just got to game plan that week before, and then just show up the day of.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I couldn't have said it better myself, honestly. That's a tough game to prepare for, especially away here. But, after that, things do kind of ease up here. Y'all get to play Bennett at home this time. Honestly, I think that'll be a win there. They are losing a solid number of guys. I know they had a new head coach last year that kind of changed some things for them that got them going. We'll see where they're at, but I still give it to y'all. And then y'all's league, honestly, I am currently actually recording the season preview for the rest of your league here. That's Clear Creek, Denver Christian, Middle Park, Jefferson, and Platte Canyon. I think actually Cody released a season preview on Middle Park along with y'all, so there you go there. But I'm currently recording these, so their season previews will drop after y'all's interview has dropped. So there you go there. But I think y'all should definitely win league again here. The only game I maybe look at, and I'm like, who knows, is maybe the Denver Christian game, maybe, which I think we'll be sending someone to that game to check it out regardless, But other than that, it should be, another dominant, you never want to get too confident, right? But another dominant season in league here. So obviously I know y'all will take those games game by game here, but of course going into this season once more, y'all have a very tough 3-game start here. You could say 4-game start here if you want to throw in Bennett as well, with 3 of those 4 games being on the road here. And so altogether, I mean, going into this season, let's just talk about expectations, right? What are some things y'all really want to accomplish going into this one? Obviously, state is on the mind here, but, is there anything else y'all are really looking to do here and whatnot? Just speak on that a little bit more here, the process going into this season and, those expectations there as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the ultimate goal every single season is a state championship, but there's goals that we definitely want to meet along the way, and obviously beating Lyman in week 3 is probably at the top of my list, just because like I said, there's so much history with that matchup, and they've gotten the best of us the past couple times, so we're definitely hungry to get that one, but other than that, a big thing that I think about this year is just it is our senior year, and I have a little brother who's going to be a freshman on the team this year, and so does Austin actually. And I think it's a big goal of ours just to come out, do things the right way, and perform well, and kind of keep this. I feel like it's by the time you get to your senior year at Strasburg, there's this almost obligation you feel to to do things right and kind of carry on traditions and make sure that the culture of Strasburg football has, or I guess stays, as good as it's been, just because, in years where we have less talent, we're younger, smaller, things like that. The culture and tradition around our program is what's going to carry us and keep us at the top. So making sure we do those things the right way is huge, and just kind of setting up a good path for, our younger brothers and guys coming after us.
Honestly, love that. I mean, that's what makes y'all's program so great, and definitely love hearing that. And I know your coaches love hearing that as well there. Now, Austin, is there anything else you wanted to talk about / add on here about expectations and going into this season, as it will be your senior year as well?
Yeah, just goal is always getting to state, winning state. Like what Landon said, week 3 is going to be big for us, and that's also at the top of my list. I'd also like to. Bennett week 4 is also a big thing, because us and Bennett have a pretty big rivalry that goes way, way back, and we've been on top of that hill for a while now, and we just like to carry on that tradition. And then, like what Landon said, with like our younger brothers coming in, I feel like me and him have a obligation to do stuff right and like set an example for both of them, because they both play the same positions as us, and just because they all these younger guys are looking up to us, so we gotta set an example and show them how to, once they become seniors, show them what to do to the next lower class that's coming up.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and couldn't have said it better myself. Well, boys, thank you so much for coming onto the show here. And obviously, best of luck going into this next season, man. I mean, we really hope to potentially see you at state, see you at that presser, and, hopefully see y'all sooner as well. But like I said, thank you for coming onto the show, and best of luck moving forward.
Thank you. We really appreciate you having us on.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So thank you so much for listening to the Playmakers Corner podcast. Make sure you go ahead and show us some love on social media. That's at Playmakers Corner on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well, where we are posting snippets of every episode and more season previews as they come. And then go ahead and follow us on Twitter at Playmaker Corner. as we are also there too. And yeah, show us some love there. Be on the lookout for a lot more content coming out as the season does approach here. We are just a couple weeks out by the time this episode drops. So there you go there, and make sure you support Colorado football. Go watch a football game on Friday night. And hey, if you can make it out to Strasburg, it's a great atmosphere over there, and they're a great program. So make sure you check these boys out as well. But with that being said, I've been your host, Simon Villanos, aka Coach V, and we will catch you later.